Let's see how we can use the DMAX function in Google Sheets. We have the DMAX function Google Sheet open, and it has the data template we require. In column A, we have the employee name from A to J. In column B, we have the department, Department 1 or Department 2 of the employees given in column A. In column C, we have the test, Test 1 or Test 2. That is the employees given in column A, whose department is either Department 1 or Department 2, all have given Test 1 and Test 2. In column D, we have the score of the employees given in column A, whose department is given in column B, for the test given in column C. In cell H2, we want the maximum score of the employees of Department 1, in Test 1. In cell H5, we want the maximum score the employees in Department 1 scored, in Test 2. In cell H8, we want the maximum score of the employees of Department 2, in Test 1. And in cell H11, we want the maximum score of employees in Department 2, in Test 2. Let's head to the H2 cell. To get the maximum score, we will use the DMAX function. Which gives a maximum of values from a table-like range. It takes database, field, and criteria as arguments. An example is shown. For our case, we'll write equal to DMAX, database, or the array or range will be from B1 to D21. Let's lock this range, using the F4, or the function plus F4 keys, as the case may be, because we do not want this database range to change when we copy this formula from the H2 cell to the H5, H8, or H11 cell. Comma, field, since we want the maximum score, and the score is given in the D column, we will write D1. Let's lock D1 as well, using the F4 or the function plus F4 keys, as we do not want this also to change as we copy the formula to other cells. Comma, criteria, for the first case, the criteria is department should be Department 1, and the test should be Test 1, so the criteria is F1 to G2. We will not lock this range, because we want this range to change when we copy the formula from the H2 to H5, H8, or H11 cell. Let's close the bracket. We see that, the maximum score, the employees of Department 1 scored in Test 1 was 98. So, if we check for Department 1, Test 1, we have this data, the maximum score is indeed 98. Now, instead of D1, we could have given in quotes, score, that is the name of the column, and we would get the same maximum score of 98. Now, instead of this, we could also have given the field as 3, because we have B1 to D21 database, so B column would be column 1, C column would be column 2, and D column would be column 3. Again we would get the same maximum score of 98. Let's change it back to D1 and lock D1. Now, instead of F1 to G2, we could use something else. First, we will write equal to curly brackets, in curly brackets, we will write curly brackets. Then comma curly brackets. In the first curly brackets, we will write in quotes, department, that is the name of the column, department. Comma, we want the department as department 1, so we will write department 1. Here, instead of comma, we will write semicolon. And then in the second curly brackets, we will write in quotes, test, as the column should be test. Semicolon, test 1, as the test should be test 1. So the column names are department and test. The department should be department 1, and test should be test 1. We get an array, department, department 1, test, test 1, same as the F1 to G2 cell data. So, instead of F1 to G2, we could write this as the criteria. And we would get the same maximum score of 98. Now, suppose, if we change the maximum score to 97, the maximum score would auto-update to 97. Let's change it back to 98. But for criteria given like this, we will have to manually give the department and test values for each case. We don't want to do that. So, we will give the original criteria, that is F1 to G2. Let's delete this from the J3 cell. Now, we can copy this formula from the H2 cell, and paste it in the H5 cell. We see that the database B1 to D21 remains as it is, unchanged. The field also remains unchanged as D1. But the criteria has changed from F1 to G2, to F4 to G5 as required. And we get the maximum score as 96, for employees in Department 1, for Test 2. So, if we check for Department 1, Test 2, the maximum score is 96. Now, let's copy this formula from the H2 cell, and paste it in the H8 cell. Again, we see that the database remains unchanged as B1 to D21, the field also remains unchanged as D1, but the criteria has changed to F7 to G8. We see that the maximum score for employees in Department 2, for Test 1 is 82. If we check the data for Department 2, Test 1 scores, the maximum score is 82. Let's copy the formula from the H2 cell, and paste it in the H11 cell. We see that the database, and the field remain unchanged, but the criteria has changed to F10 to G11. And the maximum score is 91. If we check for Department 2, Test 2 results, we see that the maximum score is indeed 91. With this, we have successfully learned how to use the DMAX function in Google Sheets. Thank you for your time. Please like, share, and subscribe if this video was useful.